So it was about time to start also with some in-person sessions, and it's a distinct pleasure to welcome Dr. Uroš Ćemalović, who will speak on patents and intellectual property law. Dr. Uroš Ćemalović is a senior research fellow with more than 20 years of expertise in EU law, intellectual property, and environmental law. He holds a PhD from the University of Strasbourg and master's degree in public administration and EU law. He has advised the EU, UNDP, OSCE, and the World Bank, and worked with companies like Sanofi and Microsoft. Dr. Ćemalović has taught at leading European universities and led a research project on IP law reform at the University of Zagreb. Since 2022, he has been leading a project on environmental law and sustainable development in Serbia and Croatia. He is the author of 4 books and more than 40 academic papers. Dr. Ćemalović, welcome. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Do you see? Yeah, you see it. Good. So, first of all, I would like to thank to the good to the technicians who made possible that we hear and see each other. Isidora, great thanks for technically preparing everything and being so nice and detailed while announcing us. Vasa, thanks for the invitation. And to all of you, thanks for being here and following me today. So this is going to be my topic. But before I start, just 2 brief observations. We had Jason, right? The first speaker, then Maria, then Paolo, and then Pablo. If my name was Pavle, then the person who made this program is certainly suffering of kind of, you know, obsessive compulsive syndrome. Luckily, my name is not Pavle, so that person is saved. Second remark is that you heard a lot of interesting insights from Pablo. And it is really my pleasure to go into more theoretical details from legal point of view, because he mentioned in several occasions the place of legal expertise in scientific research. I'm not going to speak about place of legal expertise because it's something that really would sound like a marketing of my modest person. I will try to give you an overview of what IPRs really are and what kind of mistakes we, people from scientific world, independently of the fact whether we are in technical sciences or social sciences, what kind of mistakes we make while treating those issues. So basically, the first thing is going to be context. What's the context for innovative scientific activities globally? You heard a bit about it from Pablo, so I'm going to skip it partially. And also regional. When I say regional, we have people from different countries. Is Katežina here, by the way? Our friend from Czech Republic? Not yet. Do we have a Greek-speaking person? No, we don't. Then I'm in a big trouble. Okay, I'll make it. Second topic is 4 major prejudices we all have about IPRs in science and what to do in order to fight against them. And the third thing is quite similar approach that Pablo had. What can we do right now? And these advices are really something that you can put into practice starting from yesterday. So let's start with the first thing. Okay, it might be boring for those who are not from ex-Yugoslavia, like our friend in orange, who is, I suppose, Spanish. I overheard some Spanish speaking. So this used to be a country. And this used to be its last, unfortunately, prime minister. Ante Marković is the name. Regardless of any political considerations, IP law is based on some general rules about how do you protect it. But it does not live in a bubble above us. It lives in a concrete economic and scientific reality. This is what you see all over Yugoslavia. These are trademarks. Trademarks of different companies producing different products based on, most often, patents that were the consequence, some of them still are, but very few of them, serious scientific and industrial work. So you have two schools of thought. It is possible to make sustainable economy without a real industrial base. And second school of thought, I call it casino capitalism. You can make a sustainable economic system basing only on abstract topics that might be very scientifically involved, such as video games or artificial intelligence. Older I get, personally, more I tend to believe that you need an industrial base for a sustainable economic system. If you don't believe me, go and compare number of patent applications in United Arab Emirates and in Taiwan or Singapore. So no patents without serious industry. This is an important point that I would like to stress. It is possible, but it's not, on the long term, it's not economically sustainable. Because all the people from BioSense Institute know much better than me about it. At one point, you risk to starve. You won't eat your AI. And as far as I know, video games are not fully consumable for human digestion. So that's an issue. Second point, from this, we became this. This photo is taken in Tirana, Albania, in suburbs of Tirana. And you have all kinds of milk, including milk produced in Serbia, milk that is considered to be from Alps, basically from Pannonian field by trademark says, and of course, declaration, salutations to Paolo, declaration and label says that it's from Alps, but it's basically from Vojvodina. So we became a market. The first thing you should know when you deal with innovation and with whichever kind of intellectual property is that also your ideas tend to circulate as freely as goods. Kateřina will tell you more about it. Think twice before you write a project and think 3 times before you start formally protecting your intellectual property. And some of you wonder, how come that from this, I have to go back, yeah. From this, we came to this. Well, many reasons. The world has changed, but our region is not a good one. Our part of the world made some stupid mistakes, and the example of those are here. You know, houses colored in national flags of all 3 ethnicities and religions in former Yugoslavia. So that's basically, that's it. Of course, the global influence played its role too. So let's start with some major prejudices about IPRs in science. The one I'm combating with and fighting with for almost, I want to say, let's say, many years. People come to me and tell me, okay, I'm motivated, but after all, look at the laws. And they're right when they read it. It's more or less employers' property. What I make at my work will, at the end of the day, finish as intellectual property of the institution I work for. So I don't care so much, or I care less than I should have cared, because it's kind of collective and not mine. Second problem is that many people tend to believe that the reason of existence of IPRs is to protect big companies. This system is made up for big players, by big players, so don't bother with it, especially patents and trademarks. The third one is the right time to think about IPRs is when real commercialization takes place. I wouldn't fully agree with Pablo, with what he said, that the proof of concept is not a phase where you should include legal knowledge about your invention or other rights, let's say copyright or design or trademark. Why? Because later on it's too late. And second of all, at least in Serbia, and as far as I researched on it, it's quite the similar situation all over Europe. State funding authorities insist on clear situation on IPRs before you start a project. You cannot even apply for proof of concept projects that are now under the Innovation Fund of Serbia, for example, without a clear contract regulating your IPRs that still haven't been born in the majority of cases. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's not. So please don't think about your IPRs exactly before you are putting it on the market, because it's definitely too late. I will enter in details about it. And finally, apart from copyright, there are no intellectual property rights in social sciences. Okay, majority of you are not from social sciences, but I will try to explain that interplay between those who are from natural sciences and us from social science. So let's attack the first topic. After all, it's employer's property. Nothing depends on me. Legal systems about intellectual property in Europe differ significantly, but they have a common base. That common base are international conventions, which were among the first international conventions ever concluded. The one concluded in Paris and the one concluded in Bern in 1883 and 1889. The one is about industrial property, patents and trademark. The another one is about creative stuff, everything that is the work of spirit. When you look at the Serbian legal system in intellectual property law and in scientific research, this is like, our friend Isidora is also a lawyer. This is like Isidora wrote a part about scientific research and I wrote a part about IPRs. And we haven't met each other ever in the process of writing it. Conflicts of norms are existing. And if you stick to one system, you will omit something quite complicated. What's the reason? The reason is that at the moment of creation of those two legal systems of thinking, there was no interaction between stakeholders. And this is pretty much the case all over the globe, believe me or not. The people start thinking about problems that are germing in very norms of their legal system when they come up with some concrete problems in their everyday work. I can enter in concrete examples later on, because those numbers of articles I quoted concern our legal system. But definitely what should be avoided in whichever not only legal act, but contract you make, do not ever write all intellectual property is regulated by this or that act, or all intellectual property regulated by this contract is dealt with in this or that way. Because it would be as stupid, as you have said, in any kind of contract, that all the rights are given to one party without entering in the list of that right. It's absolutely pointless. And now we are coming to the point where I desperately needed a Greek native speaker. On the right side, you have something that looks like calamari, right? Believe me, it's not. On the left side, you have brain and money just floating around. So let's start with the left-hand side. People tend to think that IP system is based on exploitation and made by big players who are already rich to make them even richer. It can be partially true, you know. There is a saying, the God created, the first beer the God created is the one for himself, but it's not true. It's not true simply because if it is right that the system of intellectual property rights was initially created in rich states that wanted to protect IP created by their inventors and centers of excellence and whatever, nowadays the IPR protection system is something that is more or less neutral and protects the one who knows how to use it. The calamari thing that is not calamari thing is a kind of special kind of pasta from Cyprus with the name of Terzelutkitia or whatever. Maria would be really helpful in pronouncing it. It's geographical indication. So no one rich produces it. You have association of small producers of that very specific pasta by ingredient, but also by its shape. And it is now geographical indication protecting the word, but also the way of preparing it. It's also intellectual property. So intellectual property is not only hard stuff like patent and trademark. A number of other rights exist, and they should be taken account into. Now, I prepared my examples on the basis of international participants. Katarzyna, I really would need you now. On the left side, you have a typical discussion of two bureaucrats. And believe me, the EU regulations tend to be extremely bureaucratic and difficult to understand. On the right-hand side, you have a Czech trademark, but not only a trademark, a Czech company, Bohema is the name. So let's see the two major things that I would like to stress. This is probably the most perilous, the most dangerous prejudice about IP rights. My intellectual property rights management as a person, as a company, as a public institute can be made only when I fully acquire those rights. As wrong as it can get. First, some rights are acquired by its very creation of your work. Typical example is everything you write, even before publication, according to Berne Convention, implemented in more than 180 national legal systems, excluding the US. Everything you create, and it's the work of spirit and mind, written or spoken, even the words I pronounce now, are covered by author's rights, copyright. And their birth takes place at the moment of their creation, plus first communication to the public. So please don't steal my slides. Of course, you will get it and you can make photos of them. It's for you. But the point is that there are kinds of intellectual property for which there is no process of administrative registration and so on. Hardcore IP rights are trademarks, patents, and design. And state authority or international authority through state authorities has to grant it. But many other rights already exist. Not to mention that there are a number of soft models and soft concepts like know-how, like commercial strategies that are the part of your intellectual property assets that do not and should not wait formal registration, then decision and stamp of state authority to be implemented and really protected. And now an example I hope you will adore. Once again, Katarzyna, how we need you. Bohema. Bohema is a Czech company. They produce garments. So what they did, they started producing clothes and shoes made of entirely biomaterial. Why they are a good example? They have innovative approach in producing garments. They have a trademark that is relatively young, but already very good implemented in the minds of consumers. Because why do you wear if you are a fashion victim? Why do you wear a concrete brand of shoes? There are various possible answers. One, because you like them and you're comfortable in them. And two, because it's a statement towards the others. In whichever case, Bohema made 100% great strategy. We make something different. It's a statement. Its net effect on environment is very low, close to zero. And in their portfolio, they have trademark Bohema, patents for production of those specific materials that are not nanomaterials as far as my stupid legal mind can get, but they are specific materials. They have design, because every cloth has three-dimensional design, and they have a series of copyrights. Absolutely everything except geographical indication, which we saw for Cypriot pasta, they integrated in their strategy. This is the real success story. When you have a portfolio and you manage it in a way that one completes with other, right? And finally, this is not extremely important for the topic, but in some elements, it can be very useful. Pablo was someone who is very deep into managerial aspects of IPRs and strategy of commercialization. And as you heard, they integrated some of natural scientists in their teams. The ways of thinking in natural sciences and social sciences tend to be different because we have more rigid principles on the one side and more soft and modelable principles on the other. But don't make a conclusion based on that if you are creating a consortium for whichever kind of collaboration you think of, you should exclude sociologists, economists, lawyers, people knowing things about management. Because only in interaction you can make results. It's applicable not only for scientific projects, but also for everyday work. Why do I say so? Let me give you an example. When you leave alone people from social sciences, they will be absolutely deprived of input for creating intellectual property outside of what is their specific field. On the other hand, when you leave alone people from natural sciences, they will lack critical skills to fully make their ideas operational on the market. Even just think about sociologists. People think that there is a kind of profile of sociologist is the person who analyzes social groups and so on. No, they're crucial for you to understand that your product has layers and the society has layers, and it's really good to know which layer of society you are focusing on. Men or women, elderly or youngsters. And of course that every product should be designed in a way to reach the biggest possible number of consumers, but it's not the right strategy. You should know at the very beginning what's your target group. Bodybuilders, and so on. So for them, no, nothing without proteins wouldn't work, for example. On the other hand, why I tend to say what I just tried to justify, as already mentioned, apart from purely technical inventions, the IPR system has elements that are hard and soft and not only laboratory proven. Let me give you a very concrete example. For a proof of concept kind of application that used to be within the Science Fund of the Republic of Serbia, now, correct me if I'm wrong, it's in the Innovation Fund. There is so-called technical readiness level that you have to have before submitting application. Great. They made a great job. Only problem is that people from technical sciences come to me and ask me, we have an interesting idea, but we don't fully understand that technology readiness level. Are we 0, 1, 2, 3? What kind of laboratory can prove it to us? Then they explain them that it is tailor-made for natural sciences, but do not quit your idea to submit application. And then they went to their director, and the guy cleverly said, I won't mention which institute is that. It's Social Sciences Institute, state-funded. The guy said, listen to his team, write whatever you need to, 2, 3, 4, 7, 11. I will sign it. They estimated their technology readiness level 3. They got the project. Laboratory proven technology readiness level works only in natural science. I wasn't able to convince the people from Innovation Fund to change their strategy, but nevertheless, there are all in all 3 projects from social sciences that have proven that they are able to submit projects, out of which my modest person is leading one of them that covers the issue of artificial intelligence. And we are, believe it or not, technology readiness level 4, because our director signed it. So briefly because I'm the last person standing between you and the lunch, so please, I'll be brief. Okay, first 2 points. Take care about your IPRs and learn about them. Whichever way of learning is good. Just at least try to distinguish between them. Make sure that you are not into design or whatever, but you are into patents, but you also have copyrights. The biggest issue in science right now, all over the globe, and in Serbia especially, is that interplay between copyright and patent. The most difficult question people ask me is, when should I publish? Because there is a pressure, publish, 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 or perish, publish, publish, M21 and Serbian system of classification. You all know that story. Some things you can publish, but don't publish everything, because then you will ruin your future patent. But the proportion of it cannot be decided only by lawyers. Lawyers can help you, but you should know the state of the art. And it's in your field. Second, in science, so much is about collaboration between different players. Think about what you have in IPRs, existing rights, and your future rights before you start. Before you start, when you know your team, you know who will do what and to which extent you can expect creative contribution. No, don't bother with details like we signed the contract, now it's for eternity. Every contract has a clause that foresees eventual potential changes. So don't bother about it, but think about your rights, and more or less you can make some little mistakes, but at the beginning you should know who makes what before it gets too late. Third thing, cross-disciplinarity is, our mouths are all of the time on conferences and in our papers, but cross-disciplinarity is something that was, according to the last regulation on scientific quantification of scientific results in Serbia, cross-disciplinarity was something that was punished by the way the points are attributed to the scientific. You should not collaborate because we will measure only the results from your small, tiny field. Now it's slightly changed, but the new regulation is not as good as it should be, but whatever. Please think about cross-disciplinarity. More cross-disciplinary you are, at the end, better results you can get. And finally, I think that Katarzyna will tell you more about it. Pablo also had several great points. When we say commercialize, the root word is commerce, so something on the market. It's tempting to think that commercialize means I will produce something and put it into the market. You heard from Pablo. They have 54 patents, out of which 27, exactly one half, is do the production elsewhere. It's a success. Of course, it's great if you can produce it where you invented it, but license is a great way to, of course, everything that we are going to speak during the roundtable, technology transfer, public-private partnership. Don't forget about it. Because BioSense is a state-run institute, state-financed institute. But it's also an example of original approach to public-private partnership. Spin-offs, spin-outs. It's something to think about. And finally, it's really the last moment to say thank you and to let you ask 1, 2 questions if you have them. Thanks.
Thank you, Uroš. So you have time for several questions. So they are probably hungry.
Yeah.
Thank you for a great presentation. You mentioned cross-disciplinarity, and I know in Europe it's pretty popular. What, for example, would you say that it's good example which is being done in Europe and in which Serbia maybe should follow in the near future?
Concerning cross-disciplinarity.
And commercialization and intellectual property in general.
Okay, good. You know, when there is no questions, usually the savior is your colleague. So, Isidora, thanks for both of your questions. Let me start with the second one. So, I will not mention the name of that material. It's insulation material. It was invented in former Yugoslavia already, and it was really good because this material was moldable and was made of ingredients that were not only diminishing the effects of burning, but they were literally stopping it. Only problem was that it contained asbestos, like the asbestos in Hotel Yugoslavia that is now demolished 2 minutes from my home, and that have clouds of tiny particles of asbestos that are floating around. Really great to walk on the Danube. In Belgrade these days. So people after the fall of Yugoslavia from Serbia, from Central Serbia, bought patent rights from the person who invented that material, found a way to isolate asbestos and to make a production that is absolutely asbestos-free with a product that had initial characteristics concerning insulation and did not commercialize. Simply exported it to South Africa. And some people made fortune out of it. Examples of cross-disciplinarity that I know are most often in ecology. Because ecology is a complex notion that includes the way you treat everything that surrounds you. And biologists are the first to be asked because they are living creatures around us. But ecology is the entire system of how you treat everything around you, starting with your husband, children, food you eat, water you drink. And my experience is that people who were dealing with green issues and who were submitting projects in alliance with the EU calls for the green economy were the most successful because they were making teams believing that their project will succeed as multidisciplinary as it can get, not because they wanted it, but because they thought we will get it if we do it, and they were getting it, and while doing it, they realized that it's maybe a good idea. I don't know if I answered. Okay.
Thank you. Any additional question? I have one. So generally, the patenting is very expensive sport. So when you come from the national to international level, etc. So what is your recommendation for some beginner, for some spin-off company that doesn't have a lot of money to invest in the research, how to start and how to proceed with the patent application, how to protect some good idea, European or international level.
This is not a $1 million question. This is a $1 billion question, but I'll try to give you some elements. So patent is hardcore IP. And it basically formally does not exist before you submit the application that was granted. Your rights will start when you submitted it, but you will know about it when it's granted. So there is a period of total darkness that lasts from 13 to 28 months, to my experience, usually 18 to 20 months. What you can do before, my recommendation, contracts, and towards the management of the institution you work at, make soft rules, make regulations, internal regulations of your institute, of whichever institute you work at, that obliges people who are working on inventive projects to inform management about it, so that the publishing strategies are adequate to the future patent claims. Because if you publish almost everything, then you practically ruined a lot. But if you do not publish, you haven't put your foot on the door. So choosing the right strategy is, because I mentioned already, copyright is the only way intellectual property law gives you to protect your rights before getting a patent. And patent is hard artillery and expensive artillery. So my recommendation is clever contracts, clever publishing, and internal regulations of your institutions, because as I tried to demonstrate, our laws do not give answers to everything. There are loopholes in the legal system. So that's probably three things to combine.